So that comes back as well to a background. So I was born clinically blind. So I had literally for the first 3.5 years of my life, I couldn't see anything. And then I went through 7 surgeries in order to be able to be sitting with you now and looking at you and be able to actually build stuff in my life. So for me, risk is non-existent. I have nothing to lose.
So Walid, tell us, how was your stay in Lebanon?
Man, first of all, happy to be here, another episode, the trip. It was good, man, but the internet sucks down there. So it was really not helping me do my work in terms of the startup or the podcast. But it was a nice trip with the family, man. But it's good to be back in Dubai.
If the internet sucks, what about the electricity?
Like we can keep on talking a lot about Lebanon. It's the unfortunate situation.
Every time you mention that.
I hope it'll get better soon, man. But there's no light that's showing up at the end of the tunnel yet.
Definitely. And yeah, hopefully, as you mentioned, like the situation will get better. But speaking of getting better, what's better than having one guest on our podcast?
Having 2 guests.
Exactly. You want to take the floor?
Definitely, man. I'm very excited for today because we have 2 serial entrepreneurs. They really started their journey from scratch for where they reach today. It's really an honor having them with us. And I want to give a brief intro of, I want them to give an introduction about themselves. So Rami and Richard Fitzgerald, pleasure to having both of you here on Higher Take. We're looking forward to hear about you guys. I mean, there's a lot of knowledge that you will be able to convey to all our audience, the story, how it all started. Richard, he's the CEO and founder of Augustus Media, who owns Lovin Dubai, Smashi TV, and Lovin KSA as well. Rami also CEO and founder of Lexium, which is a legal startup, and Aka Labs, which is an NFT project, among other things, which I will allow you guys to elaborate. So thank you guys for being here.
Thank you. Good to be here. Good to be on Higher Take.
Amazing. So I want to leave the floor, first of all, to, let's say, Rami, then Richard. I want you to go ahead and tell me about yourself, a small background about your personal self, who is Rami, and a bit about, your entrepreneurial journey. And afterwards, I'll leave the floor to Richard as well.
Thank you so much for having me. First of all, I think that's one of the weirdest questions that I answer each and every time, because I cannot categorize myself. I don't. If you ask me who is Rami? Yeah, Rami is a lawyer, but Rami is also an entrepreneur. But Rami is also an artist because I really love colors. I love design. I focus on creating stuff. Rami is a marketing guy. He's a manager. He's an HR guy. And I think that's what entrepreneurship teaches you. You're a bit of everything that creates an identity that is unique for you. I started off as a lawyer. I went through law school in New York. I went through a master's in financial services law, then worked as a lawyer for some time at a major firm before starting my own firm, which is Lexium, which started off as a law firm for startups. So we used to cater solely for startups. And this is one of the first lessons that potentially I would love to kind of share on this podcast is to be really niche when you start your career. So I started off as a startup lawyer. I got, because I was coming from big law, I got an offer from a bank, from an actual institutional financial institution, basically, to say, okay, we're going to pay you $50,000 a year to handle a few contracts, etc. I refused the contract for a simple reason, not because I didn't need the money at the time. I needed each and every penny to kind of launch and grow, but I wanted to really stay focused, and I wanted to brand myself as the startup lawyer. And now in the startup ecosystem, across the GCC, in Saudi Arabia, wherever I go, I'm kind of labeled as the startup lawyer, which I hate as a label, but still, like I focus on that. So that's me in a nutshell. I have a social media platform. I share a lot of startup content on Instagram, on TikTok, went into DeFi, blockchain, etc. And then NFTs recently with the Killers. We launched a collection on September 9th, sold out in 3 minutes. We have an amazing community, so kudos to them if they're watching this. I love to always
They
support.
should watch it. They should.
Yeah, I mean, whoever is watching, they know that how conservative I am towards my community, and so that's in a nutshell. That's who I am.
Such an amazing introduction, because
I
like you
appreciate it.
mixed and you blended all
Lots
the
of
things
things.
that you do, I think, in a very clear way.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for that intro. Richard, I'll leave the floor to you. Maybe tell us more about yourself and
Yeah, hard one to follow. A little more humble background. So I grew up in the countryside in Ireland, studied in near Dublin, and graduated in 2006 with a degree in economics in German. I had wanted to be a football coach. I really liked football and I liked working with people. I wanted to do psychology and things like that, but I didn't really, like most young people, I didn't really figure out what I was going to do. And I took a language and a business topic. So I studied German. I lived there during the university for a year, and I studied economics. But around 2006, I also, into the creative side of things and commercial. And the best fusion of that was commerce and creativity was sort of advertising and marketing. So I I went that direction. I was reading a lot about social media at the time. The only job I could get was an outdoor, selling outdoor advertising company that sell the 6-sheet advertising box, outside newsagents across Ireland and some billboards. And while I was doing that, I found the only course in Ireland at the time for digital marketing. And for the first time ever, I was top of my class. So I because I was passionate about it, I was reading everything about it. And then I found that the leading and only digital agency in Ireland. They'd started up in 1999 and they'd done a lot of this sort of Google stuff when that came on board. And luckily, after a second attempt interview, I got in there. And basically, my career since 2006 has been both sides of media. On the marketing side, mainly with agencies in 3 different countries. And when I ended up in Dubai in 2012, I was working with an agency that were across 13 countries. So I was I was in Beirut from 2012 to 2015, built a hub there, hired 30 trilingual graduates, worked for 300 clients across the region. And but then in around 2015, I didn't really plan it. I always thought I wanted to do my own social media agency, but I didn't plan the shift to the journalism, media, publishing side. But at Facebook, on social at the time, there was a lot of juice and a lot of reach for clickbait type news publications, video, social articles, all that stuff. And my friend was doing a project in Ireland, Lovin Dublin, and I asked him what he was doing. And we basically signed sort of, Rami will probably laugh at the agreement that we signed, but we did a 10-year area developer contract that wasn't, it wasn't even copy and paste. It was more like, let's just write stuff down. And when things got legal in later years, not with him, he had left, but it was kind of thrown out, basically, that document. But it served us well. We got started. Lovin Dubai took off quite quickly. I had left the sort of bigger company that I was with, and I joined MD of a tech startup, a tech social sort of startup. And I was basically in 2015, for about 8 months, I had 2 businesses. I had equity in a startup that had raised funds, and I had put all savings into the other business, and it was quite a difficult time, but to manage both. But basically, then saw that Lovin Dubai was taking off, and knew that, and was passionate about that media side. So that became, the license was Augustus Media, and Augustus Media essentially is a modern media company, slash between a broadcaster and a publisher. And we now have 16 Lovins, so 15 cities across the region, and Lovin Saudi Arabi, and the rest are mainly in English and some Arabic. And then so that's our sort of horizontal Lovin Dubai, sort of local news and lifestyle, loving your life tagline. And then just to sort of synergize. We've also got a streaming service, sort of our R&D, our next wave of media, and we built it from scratch. It's called Smashi TV, and it's got 12 channels, and it's vertical. So Smashi Crypto, Smashi Gaming, Smashi Sports, and we live broadcast 500 games from the UAE this year, from the federations of indoor sports like futsal, volleyball, handball, things like that. We have an office in KSA, we have an office in Cairo, we have a JV in Pakistan, JV in Sudan, and starting offices in Bahrain and Abu Dhabi and in Doha. And we're 70 people. We just built 12,000 square foot studios in Dubai Production City. And, all from profits, basically. We'll do $5.2 million revenue this year, 20% margin, and we're reinvesting. So, a kind of a solid ground footing, 7 years in, modern media company that is focused on digital, is focused on this region, and is focused on our sort of own IP brands as well.
Wow, man! Again, amazing. I'm very excited because both of you guys
we have so many topics to cover.
You guys really provided a lot for us, to dismantle your careers, let's say your journeys, and to be able to better understand. Okay, you guys did this, but we, go into the details how you got there, so people will be able to relate and reach this. So maybe the first thought I have in my mind, I would say. For Richard, you said you came from the countryside, right? And now you're in one of the biggest hubs cities in the world. So, like, how how did you manage to build this character that's coming from a countryside to fit a character that needs to be in like the city, if it makes sense?
Yeah, I had a good education. I was lucky. I went to boarding school, a good education. But even still, as a character. Waleed, when I was working my first job, I was one of the shy kind of account executives that couldn't speak to the clients. And I wasn't really encouraged by my managers. And I felt like that I wasn't really, I knew more than my image or reputation sort of had in the company. And I wasn't promoted for 2.5 years. Like, it was a struggle. And then I went to London. I found a social media agency that were dedicated to that. And then I sort of, at least I didn't do well in the first job. And then the second job, I started to do well. But at that point, for England to Irish people is sort of more interesting, right? Like, London's a big city and it was quite exciting. Like Rami, you said off air, you were in New York as well. And it's quite exciting when you land in these places at the first time, but maybe too exciting. And I was sort of burning the candle and both sticks, whatever the phrase is. So I would be like, I got a fixie bike and I'd be flying around the city, going to parties and going to art galleries, going to football games, all the things that we didn't really have as much of in Dublin. But in the agency land in London, they were a lot more sophisticated. And I learned a lot about leadership. I learned a lot about client service, relationships in the workplace, managing upwards. I learned a lot of the career skills that you need. So when I came to Dubai, I didn't have any inferior complex. I wasn't kind of from the countryside into Dubai sort of thing, even though, Dubai 10 years ago is a little different than it is now. But I didn't, so I was, even though it was in a region where I didn't really understand culturally, I loved that. And I saw that as a kind of a challenge to learn but I didn't have any of the what would it be like if I did London or New York? I kind of knew I'd mastered that or did well at that. Like, when I was in London, I had a blog called 52 Burrito Dates. So I basically won at a London Twitter Festival in 2010. I won a year's supply of Chilango. They're like Chipotle burritos. And people were DMing me, you're the burrito boy. Can we share? So I was like, I was 27 in London, long hair. And I was like, okay, right, I'm going to go on some dates here. and then I started blogging about it and it blew up. And it was like, it was on the BBC. I basically dated 52 different girls, one every week for a whole year, and wrote about it publicly. And so I kind of, I tick that box, that London box, you know, kind of like when I came over here, I was like, right, I've done that. And that allowed me to sort of think a little, and even now think a little bit long term, you know, like I really believe in this region. And yeah, so yeah, it took a while. Like I'm nearly 40. Like it took a while. It wasn't it's sort of like countryside farming
and
type,
then,
and then big city.
I think it's safe to say that you make the best out of what you're given.
Exactly. And as you mentioned, it's like a learning curve, you know, like it's not like you're here, then here. You had to go through multiple experiences in life to build that personality and character that would fit, you know, the city wise.
Yeah.
And Rami, maybe also, you know, you could build on that. So like you were also in employment, as you mentioned, he was in multiple jobs, it built his character. So you were employed at first, and then you left to pursue your entrepreneurship journey. So like how, you know, did you find that passion and you made that transition? What, you know, pushed you to go ahead with that route, you know, from New York to...
So it actually happened in a bit of a different way. I've never wanted or felt like being employed in a sense. I never consider any kind of job that I did as something that I owed to someone. I considered that everything I did, I owed to myself. So technically, whenever I was employed in a place, I wanted to give the best because this is who I am. This is what I want to deliver. This is what I want to give. And it was always this way. The thing that got me out of kind of, you know, we want to call it employment, because I really believe that an entrepreneur is employed for themselves. I think what got me really out is the opportunity and the problem that I was solving. And I felt a need for legal for startups at the time when I was working in legal, in financial services. So I used to do all these ISDA agreements, swaps, kind of very complex agreements that banks would use, Goldman Sachs, etc. would use. And I thought to myself, why can't I actually replicate this for early movers, for startups, for small companies, for them to be able to raise capital at a much earlier stage than what they could potentially going public or raising capital, etc., with VCs and institutional investors. So that was where it started. I wanted to give that power to entrepreneurs to say, hey, you could potentially build something, raise capital by having lower costs on legal, and I would be able to help you shape your idea, because I'm passionate about ideas and like creative entrepreneurs trying to disrupt markets. So I thought, why can't I build this? So that's what got me really out of entrepreneurship, out of employment into entrepreneurship, right? And that and it's weird how, and to Richard's point, when he was saying like, I went through London, I went through the experience, and I love that. You came to Dubai and you saw a different angle of Dubai. When people are coming to Dubai, maybe to see sometimes the social part, the exciting part of Dubai in matters of entertainment, you saw a different angle. You saw the long term. So that's kind of where I was. I was in New York. I saw that angle. I saw, okay, I'm not going to keep going to parties all my life. It's crazy. I mean, I'm going to go 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and then I really feel like solving something. I really feel like giving purpose to myself. And so this is where it starts.
So it comes within.
Yeah, it comes definitely from within. It comes from solving a problem. And I always say on my page, in my videos, like everything I do, it always starts with this need and this really urge to solve a problem.
But speaking of like finding your purpose, like many people want to find their purpose, whether they're employed or whether they're their own entrepreneurs. But with purpose comes risk, because as you know, like I can be saying that I want to find my purpose, but okay, there's a gap in the market. I don't want to find my purpose with the opportunity cost of having a risk and basically losing what I have and like opening and starting up a new thing. How did you manage this thin line of finding your purpose and managing risks at your own cost?
So that comes back as well to a background. So I was born clinically blind. So I had literally for the first 3.5 years of my life, I couldn't see anything. And then I went through 7 surgeries in order to be able to be sitting with you now and looking at you and be able to actually build stuff in my life. So for me, risk is non-existent. I have nothing to lose. I never had anything to lose anyway. I was born with something that could have stayed. I could have been walking with no vision, nothing at all. And I got blessed to be able to do that. And so for me, we are all living in a fictive conception of risk. Technically, if you look at what we're living and what we're doing, we're all at risk of like just disappearing from one second to another, or losing anything that we consider as base, as for us for granted in a way: vision, touch, feeling, smell, whatever, these basic things that we're at risk of losing at every second. So where is the risk? For me, there's no real feeling for risk. I don't feel it. I just jump on things and do them, and it happens.
It's a very eye-opening statement.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm sure it's going to influence a lot of the viewers that are watching.
It puts things into perspective. What's your thoughts about, this risk that Maher mentioned and taking to leave and start your own thing, to leave employment?
I think it's interesting when you make it personal like that, and it's a good reference to, relate it to life and be grateful for what we have and appreciate it like that. I think, personally, the risk and the jump from, I also agree that I'm still an employee. I'm employing myself, but I'm still an employee. Like, I still act like an employee. I don't have special treatments and everything, but there was that sort of fear of the jump, of the security of the workplace and the job, the working for getting a regular salary and all these things that people sort of get accustomed to. And there is a risk, like, it might be relative, but the risk is that, you put everything into something, money, time, efforts, and you end up with nothing. And, for me, I could have, the business mightn't have taken off. And then what am I left with? I go back to another job, and then, or I leave the country or whatever. So I don't really think about those things, but I meet people now who have ideas and have restless nights, and it's almost like they don't have the right things in place to make that jump. And it's why there's a lot of things in the startup ecosystem, like good software and good things like that help people to raise funds and things like that. But it's also like psychologically, like it's a tricky jump. Like, I was stressed out big time. I had anxiety, around that time. Because I'd taken on a lot, and I thought I was able for it. I was 32, and I was an MD of a company. I'd been promoted a few times, a regional social media director. Like, I wasn't sort of like, I've got an idea, and even I knew my space, my industry really well. I knew how to build a business unit. I knew P&Ls. I knew everything. I had loads of contacts. I knew how to win business. And even I found it really hard, and it was touch and go for the first few years. But, when I meet people and they ask me, I met someone recently, and she always wanted to do dancing, and she's a teacher now. And on the side, she's got some dancing classes. And she's like, I think I should work in media. I think I should get a job in media, like 10 years later or whatever. And I could just see that sort of cusp of where I was in 2015. And rightly or wrongly, I said, forget about media, quit the teaching job, and what you've got is good. Like, you're making money, kids are coming to your classes, like, just take that step. And it will be shit for 2 years. You're going to struggle. But like, in the long term, it's your passion, and your passion will get you there, and you'll get through it.
Definitely. Couldn't have said it better. I mean, following your passion, you need to take it. It's not always easy. You guys have been through it. I have been experiencing something similar recently. So the most important thing is taking that step. Rami, you mentioned you work with, you're the founder of Aka Labs, correct?
Yeah.
So it's about NFTs, killers.
Yeah.
And other things, but possibly. So maybe you could elaborate, and maybe the point that I'm trying to reach at the end of this question is the NFT space dead or not?
Gotcha.
Very
Gotcha.
bluntly.
Gotcha. But before that, I just want to highlight something.
Yeah.
For all the young people that are listening to this and that might be listening to that content, there are many opportunities. So the safety nest that is available today for young people is much bigger than it was 10 years or 20 years ago. I was in Canada for the summer. I spent like a few weeks in Quebec City. The amount of restaurants that are looking for waiters to actually work, for barman to serve, is tremendous. Is like they're aching for someone to come and work, and there are not enough people wanting to work. So worst case scenario, you could go back to some kind of job. I worked as a waiter. I worked as a barman. So I started in these jobs. I did these jobs, and it's enriching because you realize that sometimes you create that idea that you have so much to lose, when in fact you could go back to something and then start over, whatever you want to start over.
Definitely.
So definitely to push, really to keep pushing, build your e-commerce, as Richard was saying. Like, I love how he was encouraging, like, follow your passion, follow your, whatever you want to do, just build it. It's the time to build. We're in a recession, we're in a crisis. This is the time for people to actually start building, so that when the economy comes back on track, because it will, it's a cycle, it's always a cycle, you will be ready to actually launch products, scale services, scale your talent. People can become artists. And now I'm going to go to that introduction towards NFTs. We built, so I built a social media account in a way where I share startup stuff. And that comes in line with what I did at Lexium, which is helping startups. So I wanted to scale it up on a personal brand. So I created a personal brand on Instagram and TikTok, etc.
Yes.
And then I was, obviously, we all, especially entrepreneurs, follow Gary Vee. So we know, like, we know what he's doing, how he's doing things. And this guy is obviously an inspiration to a lot of people. When he launched Vee Friends, that was one of the most enlightening moments that I witnessed. I was literally consuming that content on a daily basis, 24/7, to understand what is Vee Friends. And so what he created with Vee Friends was an intellectual property with a community that is based on these tokens that he launched to the public with Vee Friends Series 1, right? You could have a Vee Friends and get an exclusive meeting with Gary Vee, get on a podcast, or get him on a podcast with you if you have a Vee Friends. So this is value. So you get him on a podcast, obviously your views spike up. Richard would tell us, it will create so much exposure for you, right? Yeah. So that investment that you put into a Vee Friends Series 1 token, where you could actually bring Gary Vee with you, that would make you money. So that's where I started understanding the relationship between the technology, the intellectual property, the value being created out of the NFTs, and what it could enable to people. And so I wanted to replicate that model on a smaller scale, obviously with my social media. And so I created Akillers. Akillers is an NFT project that it's a Web3 startup, basically, that released a collection of NFTs, a Genesis collection. It's a DAO, it's a decentralized autonomous organization where the actual holders own the startup. So the holders who own Akillers own the actual startup. And what we're doing is building content, educational content for entrepreneurs, for people to learn practical skills. And our vision is to build a Pokemon Go for gamified learning. So we're imagining a world where AR is going to be so mainstream. We're going to all be wearing glasses, and where you will have the Akillers app that will trigger challenges in real world for you to learn new skills. for example, communication skills or whatever skills you want to learn for your entrepreneurship journey, you would be able to initiate it through a gamified solution in a way. I say Pokemon Go because it makes it simple for people to understand, because a lot of people played Pokemon Go. You find a Pokemon, you just start collecting. And so it's the same process, building that game. So that's in a way what a Killers is. Yeah. And if you're asking about what the NFT space looks like, there's always an adoption period. So if you look at the dot-com bubble of the year of like the 2000s, a lot of investors were actually taking piles of cash and throwing them at tech startups back in 1998, 1999, right? And you saw these pictures of people like holding bags of cash and going to these tech startups and tech entrepreneurs and saying, hey, I want to put money with you. No. But the problem at the time, what was it? The problem at the time was there were not enough internet users. Correct. To actually consume whatever was being produced. And the technology was not that fast. Replicated today, NFTs launched with a huge hype, with a huge demand, especially with Bored Apes, with VeeFriends, and collection after collection, people started building. These are entrepreneurs, just like the series of entrepreneurs that built in the year 2000 and in the year 2010 with Uber and all these apps that came from the Apple Store. Then supply started increasing. So there were more and more collections, more and more, but not enough people jumping into the space, especially that it was an unregulated space. Yeah. So technically you could launch an NFT collection, sell your tokens and just run away.
That's what happened.
Right?
Many times.
We didn't see any NFT founder being accountable for things or saying, hey, I registered a company, or where is the mint money going to? We didn't see that. And that's part of like why I started to raise that flag back in February and March and April of last year, saying, hey guys, there's something illegal happening here. People are being scammed. Yeah. There are no companies, no transparency, no terms of sale, no clear view of what the money is being used for. And from a technical perspective, from a legal perspective, that money that you raise in the mint, that's crowdfunding.
That is
you're actually crowdfunding your project, right? And the problem with that crowdfunding is that the person that's paying the money is not getting any perks. So when we say, I'm going to give you IP, yeah, so what the... I'm not sure if we can curse. What the fuck you can cut it. But what the fuck do you do with that commercial IP? At this point in time, all the NFT projects in the space are benefiting from the holders and not the other way around. Even if you have a Bored Ape right now and you open a burger shop and you put your Bored Ape as a logo, you will not really benefit.
You'll not get
like a few Bored Ape members would jump in, take a burger or something, but it's not something mainstream yet, right? So I think what the NFT space went through is a period of hype that now in a way stagnated or stabilized, and we're gonna see a lot of value created from NFTs moving forward, because combining tech with intellectual property, with microtransactions is the future. However you want to label it, these three things, and we're not going to call it NFTs anymore. It's just like MP3s. We used to call music MP3. Right? Everyone, I'm listening to MP3. What? We don't say MP3 anymore, right? We say music.
You say music.
Right? Same thing for NFTs. We're not going to say NFTs anymore, non-fungible tokens. We're going to say something else. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to combine that intellectual property with the technology, with the ability to do microtransactions, and the ability of these microtransactions to fuel more content, more curated content, more business models that are more flexible. And so I think the future is very bright for what we call today NFTs.
Definitely.
But like, given the NFT is a huge space and there are like so many loopholes to discover, or so many like things to display, since it's like, as you were saying, maybe boomed to like last 2 years. So don't you think like in the future, there will be like a clear vision or like a clear pathways to how people can use NFTs? Or you think that it's going to stay like stagnant?
No, I mean, like right now, this is when unicorns are built.
Yeah.
This is when unicorns, when in 2010 or 2009 Uber started, there was this idea, like, wow, how can an actual cab driver just log into the app and go pick me up without actually having a medallion, which was worth in New York, south of $1 million, right?
Exactly.
So this was blurry. I lived through the Airbnb early era in New York, and I was renting my apartment there, and I was meeting with other hosts. It was illegal. We used to hide and create these groups, these secretive groups. We would sit, and how are we going to do that? And we used to receive our checks from Airbnb in postcards.
Okay.
I promise you, we would get the letter with the check being stuck on the back of the postcard, and we would go cash it out at the bank. It was a check, and we would go just like cash it at the teller. So this is when value is built. This is when unicorns and when next billion-dollar companies are built, because it's still blurry. So what's going to happen later on? Of course, it's going to become super clear how you use NFTs. Instagram now is integrating NFTs as a marketplace. Now you could mint NFTs on Instagram.
That's all. It's getting more and more regulated.
That's the reason I asked the question. I tried to visualize what's the pathway of NFTs going forward.
Bro, microtransactions, intellectual property, and technology being more and more used in augmented reality and virtual reality.
I just want to hear Richard's take. I know he works in media, Augustus Media. So like, I don't know if Smash TV or anything, if you look into this AR offerings, the NFTs at all, or it's something that Augustus Media hasn't explored yet.
Yeah, I also agree. You know, whatever way you describe future trends, someone said in the fourth industrial revolution, and it's the digital one. I also think that many parts of the world aren't digitized yet. So anything digital, any projections in the future around digital or technology, I'm half sold. You know, I think, and especially in that space, you know, we're in a media company space, and a lot of people, I would say, you know, Rami said they're in the adoption phase. Like in media companies, they're in the experimental sort of get press coverage type phase with Web3 and NFTs. I definitely, my point of view on it is Web3 works, and I think that Web2 companies are actually going to benefit from this. People think that the Web3, there will be unicorns, there will be Web3 native companies and new companies. But if you think of our industry, the companies that are doing really well now are Web1 companies. So the listed companies in media that are doing quite well is from commerce. So that marriage of e-commerce, sort of, you know, how do you do well from e-commerce if you're a publisher? Google, right? So Google and all those companies are Web1, right? Amazon and 1995 onwards for about 10 years until they coined, Tim O'Reilly coined Web 2.0 in 2004, and 2005, 2006, 2007, then you had the Facebooks and all that. But the media companies that grew on top of Web 2 haven't really done well. And we're one of them. We're done okay, we're profitable, but we didn't get the $1.7 billion valuation that BuzzFeed got in 2017. They went public last year at 1.5 billion. Today, if you're aggressive, you can buy them on the stock market for $250 million, right? So Web 2 is, the companies that grew on top of Web 2 haven't really done well. Why do I think that they're the ones that are going to do well? Because for me, Web 3 is the bit that Web 2 missed, which is the value exchange, and give the creator some money back, right? Like who got the money? Ad markets, right? Facebook, although at the moment it's decreasing 80 billion a year on advertising, right? So they did well on Web 2, but in future it'll be the creator. So personally, and this is real, I know people explain the industry with pattern recognition, and it's the best way to explain things. But fundamentally, how do we understand this? You know, I'm simplifying it, but smart contracts and speed of transfer and DeFi and all this stuff, the world has a problem with how slow money moves, right? And this stuff is going to fix that.
Exactly.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, just like the Uber came faster, money will move faster because like everything else moves faster. So, you know, so it's just natural. Like we evolve, we make things up as humans and it's just going to happen. And the same with Web3. What is wrong here? You guys are doing this podcast and without a sponsor, blah, blah, blah. And there's someone getting value from this. Where's the money? Where's the value exchange, right? Is it, you know, capitalism is about services and value exchange and being commercially savvy. So I think that Web3 will solve that problem. And also I do believe in the IP side of things with, you know, you made a good example of VFriends and things like that. But so our point of view, long way of answering the question, but our point of view is we're a media company. We don't do agency work. We don't do events. We don't do talent management. We're building IP, you know, in much in the same way. No, actually, totally not in the same way. But like Disney focus on digital, you know, a global company and actual famous IP. We're trying to, you know, understand what that means, right? And that helps us make decisions. So if Disney are going for branded content IP, it helps them know that they want to buy Marvel or Star Wars or Pixar or whatever. Then if we're going after IP, then we know when the timing's right that we will launch NFT projects that suit our IP, whether it's related to cities in the region, like, you know, with Lovin, or whether it's related to media things with Smashi or whatever. And then the smart contract side. But at the moment as well, like Smashi Crypto is one of these news platforms for crypto, right?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, we're like a law firm who would advise on startups. You know, we have a service element of media. So, you know, there are the creators like this podcast, and there's the platforms like Spotify or whatever. But who's the media saying that there's a new podcast out? Right? Like you guys aren't writing about the other podcast, talking about the other podcasts that people might listen to. So I think media plays a role in that space. And it's not the glamorous, high valuation, bet on the future part of it. But we believe in it. And we think fundamentally like branded content, IP and digital are everything we do. So, you know, the studios, we have a VR studio. There isn't that much in it at the moment. It's actually quite hard to get many of the devices.
That's hard,
in the UAE, there aren't that many available. You know, from the chairs to the trampolines to like there are Oculuses, but there's just not. There's just
the entire equipment.
Yeah, there's just not that much stuff here yet. And I know that all these companies are going to release new headsets and things like that, or Meta already have. But you know, people laugh at Zuckerberg spending 9 or 12 billion a year
because it's a cartoon.
Yeah, they laugh at everything he does. But sometimes, you know, it's like funds, right? You know, if you see people putting funds into something, yeah, right, that might be like speculative. But usually something eventually comes out the other side, right? Exactly. Like if you invest in infrastructure in schools or roads, right? Like that usually provides like logistics, transport, accessibility, or education. If Dubai has a fund or initiative around regulation on crypto or the metaverse, like don't be naive. Don't say that this stuff isn't happening. It's happening. It's where the money is.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, I think that's such a great take. But now, like, I would like to dive deeper into the Augustus Media, your company, because I feel like many people are aware of the page Lovin Dubai, but not as many people are aware about, like, you know, it lies under Augustus Media. So I would like to know more about how did you come up with this initiative and what were the stepping stones in order to accomplish or establish a company that's as successful as it is right now.
Sorry, I think just Rami wants to add something.
I'm curious
before he answers.
to know why did you call it Augustus?
That's a good question.
Yeah. So it's named after a character from a period of history, Emperor Augustus, obviously the Roman Emperor. We didn't, you know, I thought like it's a long name. I have it as kind of like my grandfather had a similar name. And I had it as my confirmation name, so it's part of my name, so similar. So it's kind of there. Yeah. But from, you know, our studios have Augustus's bust, and you know, we do have that sort of approach to things in terms of just iconography and just how the company is. So it's just a name. It's just Augustus.
No, you know, I'm asking because our project is called Achilles, out of like coming from Achilles, and my pseudo in Web3 is Achilles.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So these guys have the Roman civilization with the Greek civilization being combined on this podcast. So I thought we got
Good to know.
Roman and Greek.
Yeah, you're a bit older than us, but yeah. But like, yeah, I think, you know, I like history, and media is sort of history in a way, right? Like storytelling and things like that. Completely different, but I get inspired by people from periods of history, and Emperor Augustus wasn't, you know, the story of how he inherited Rome from Julius Caesar wasn't straight, right? He was an adopted kind of son. And then he had to battle and kill people basically at the start until sort of 14 BC. And then he changed it from a republic to an empire. And there was, after he died, you know, he ruled for many years. And then they said there was 200 years of peace afterwards. And so I like that story. I like sort of, and if you were talking previously about Mark Zuckerberg hasn't visited many places, but he went to Rome when he was at, if you watch the recent Spotify documentary, when he was in Lake Como at Daniel Ek's wedding in 2016, he actually went to Rome around that time. And it's the only course that he did in Harvard before he dropped out, not Rome in the time of Augustus, and his hair is actually parting like Augustus, right? So, so I don't think that Facebook or Meta are dead at all. Like he's not even 40. I think he might be just turned 40. He's got 30 years to run.
Mark, yeah, he's still in his 30s.
Yeah, yeah. But, you know, people say he's 20 years after the people who are doing cool stuff now, but like he definitely sees. You know, he's definitely kind of modeling around Augustus, and it helps us sort of future plan as well. Like when we're making decisions around investments, like, you know, what we're doing, media is sort of undervalued at the moment. And we're thinking 10, 20, 30 years, you know, ahead or even longer. So yeah, like the Augustus, so Lovin Dubai was a franchise. So, and legally when we were registering it, it was hard to get Dubai in the name. So, and I always thought like, then maybe we can add more things to this in the future. We wrote down, at the very start, a vision to establish and maintain a new order in media advertising. You know, if you work in like Rami was working in sort of the financial world and the legal side of it, you spot problems. And if I'm 10, 12 years in agency world, like anyone, they'll say that this is a mess, right? Like how things are bought, the rebates, like all this stuff is just messy. Let's simplify it. And some people come out with really granular data products and different things. But so I thought maybe like, let's just have this big goal of fixing this mess. And then the mission was to become the media company of choice in the Middle East. In the region. So, you know, what consumers choose our brands and advertisers choose our brands. So that's how it stemmed from. And when we started, it wasn't a fresh idea, right? It was localizing Lovin Dubai that no one knew. Like we set it up or whatever, but, and then we defined it further, and then we kind of rebranded and, you know, bought the licensed IP assignments, so bought it for the region, and then started rolling out many other things. And, now we're pretty comfortable with what Lovin Dubai is. Everyone has different views on what it is, and but we're pretty sure on what it is and what purpose it serves and what it can do in this region. And then, you know, at that same time, I also, you know, we didn't own the Lovin IP until we do now, but I knew that would be important. So when I saw the next wave, I was kind of like, well, we need to own an IP. And we said, let's do streaming, but let's create our own IP. So Smashi was like Cheddar in the US. So Cheddar was like a young Bloomberg. It streams off Wall Street. It does all the startup broadcasting. It was a streaming service. And it had a block of cheese, like cheddar cheese. And so we made a mallet, and Smashi is the mallet. And, you know, and that became our IP and our brand. And the tagline under Smashi is for the driven, dreamers, doers. So in 10 years of flying around to all countries in the region, I was, you know, surprised and impressed with not necessarily just a startup mentality, but definitely people who wanted economic prosperity. And there was a young cohort. So I thought, well, why don't we create a media brand that speaks to these people? So what, like MTV spoke to a youth at a time, or like Vice spoke to people in Canada, 1991. So like 30 years ago, right? Like we wanted to create a media brand that speaks to young people who are ambitious in the region, and that's what we're doing. So Augustus Media essentially has 12 channels under Smashi, 16 cities under Lovin, and the different offices. We do some white label stuff, like Vice have Virtue. We have our own branded content unit, which is called Odium. A lot of the things that we do are Roman references. So Odium is like a cinema or theater in Rome. So that's our content studio. And Censor was the census when the people, counting how many, the population of Rome. So Censor is our proprietary data analytics platform. But they're not client facing things. These are just things that we use to help run the business.
I feel like one of the main pillars on why you guys are so successful, and especially I'm talking about Lovin Dubai, is that you guys are able to get news fast and very fast.
Very fast.
How can you guys manage that? How do you get the news in such a fast manner?
It comes by design. Like, I remember hiring an editor, and she wanted to work from the UK in the summer, and she was just used to deadline days, There is no deadline. I was on the bike this morning and I was getting videos of a fire in downtown. Like, there's no deadline. How were we able to get it up? It happened at 6:52. We were able to post it at 8 or so. For me, that's not good enough. That's an hour and 8 minutes too late. But, but I didn't post it, but I had shift scheduled work to post it, right? But to do it in a way which is a trained journalist, they come through. See, this is the thing about media, right? Like, you need, like law, you need to trust what people have studied in university, whether you're an engineer. So I trust and believe in and respect the profession of journalists. I'm not a journalist, but I respect it. And what we had to do is, okay, they come and they know how to fact check, and they know how to write. They don't know how to discover, and they don't know how to distribute. So we teach them. And the discovery part is tricks and tools online. And the distribution part is enabling that packaging. So, whether it's TweetDeck or whether it's getting source of content, okay, you have your website and you have your social media, and then the distribution. So we use Canva, we use all things like that to get things out packaged fast. But one journalist and the approval, and to design a system on Slack where we've 3 fast channels that there's a cutoff time when you post the topic to discuss. If there's no one saying no in 15 minutes, then it goes to the headline, and then it goes to the approval link, right? And sometimes it's even faster than that. But there's no like, submit a piece of copy for an article and someone else edits it and someone else uploads it to a CMS. No way. We cut all this out, and
the old-fashioned.
And if you don't do it by design, you cause, like in the service industry and agencies, you cause stress on people. You feel like, I don't WhatsApp the people who work with us. I don't WhatsApp them. I don't need to. I built a system that allows us to go fast.
Exactly.
Perfect.
How did you monetize Lovin Dubai?
Branded content mainly is 70%. 30% is audience revenue, which I'll explain, which is rev share, like display, YouTube ads, Snapchat. We do really well on Snapchat.
Really well. Snapchat is very big. We'll get into social media platforms. Other than that, it's like institutions, etc. pay Lovin Dubai to post as well.
Exactly. At the moment, some people are saying there's a lot of ads on the Instagram page. There is, but when I was at that agency, like that branded content unit was trying to be, people were trying to push it with BuzzFeed, this sort of native sort of brought to you by piece, and I think it's quite an interesting way to reach people. So we basically localized that, right? Like, and by localizing it, we brought the price point down, and we brought it interesting for startups and for restaurants and things. Advertising was democratized with self-serve. Like, advertising used to be hard to, you used to have an agency, you used to have to do creative or record ads, do billboards and everything like that. But with the self-serve, whether it's on PPC on Google or Display Network or every platform has a self-serve now. Even Snap do, Facebook, Twitter, everything, TikTok.
Go ahead.
Sorry, and because that's self-serve, it democratized it.
Yeah,
so
of course.
the long tail, the number Facebook would say in their earnings or Meta, how many advertisers there are on the platform. So they said, the mission was to make the world more open and connected in discourse, but actually they were empowering people to advertise and promote their small business.
Yeah.
And we're just like a layer, like Gary Vaynerchuk, he always says that he's a layer on top of the internet. He never built a platform. He's the toll bridge, and we sort of kind of tap into that as well. Like if you have a restaurant, you don't have the money to get the videographer down and then someone has a paid social to boost it.
Exactly.
So you might need 20, 30,000 dirhams to do the video. And then you might need someone else to edit it and push it out to get 150,000 views. We do all of that for half the price of the production with no paid media, right? So at a local level with an audience, with a couple of million followers that are also used to getting this stuff.
Yeah.
So
you mentioned something funny, not funny, but something that's going on right now. Lovin Dubai is getting like some sort of backlash over the amount of posts they have been adding about Dubai Bling, about Dubai Bling.
Good friends over at Dubai Problems. Yeah,
Dubai Problems, 100%. I've been following like Dubai Problems, what they're posting about. Like, the point is, how do you handle these situations? I
love it. Like what? It's not a situation to handle.
You just leave it, let it happen. Yeah.
Rami, are you aware
what about you, like haters or someone?
Same thing.
Rami's a micro influencer as well, so like he does get some backlash. Like
I do love it. Same thing. You don't handle these things. Like just let it go, let it slide. That's it. That's it. And like what they're sharing on that topic is for me is amazing. Like the highlight and stuff. I find, everything that you highlight to the public, if it's honest, if it's straightforward, you don't handle it. You just let it go. Just
100%.
You're gonna have hate.
It's positive.
That's the thing.
When you have people talking, like I think it's still positive to have haters in a way. Like for us, we got like a negative comment, me and Mahid, and we were happy.
I sent it to Walid on the chat.
We got a hater.
And they sent me like laughing faces. Because, of course, like if you're going to put yourself there, you're going to receive it. It's like something 100%.
Bro, I got on one of the videos, I literally got around 1,200 insults.
Wow.
Wow.
It was a year and a half ago, something like that, on TikTok. I shared a video saying Bitcoin is shit. Bro, the amount of hate that I got was unbelievable. Literally, I remember like something like 1,200 comments.
Yeah.
All like insulting my mother, my sister, whom they don't know if I have, my parents, like everyone. And I literally got WhatsApps sharing with me stickers that they did of my face, saying in Arabic, like stupid financial advisor, stuff like that. It was crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it got me a lot of attention at the time. It got me a lot of followers, but it was something that I spoke from conviction. Yeah. And I said, this shit, stop saying to people that this is a store of value. And for these guys who have 100 and 200 and 300 and 400 and $500 to go throw them in Bitcoin and wait until it becomes $1 million, which will not happen at least anytime soon. And instead of like pushing them to launch their e-commerce or their drop shipping store or their startup or their page or whatever it is, right? So that was what I said, and all these traders started insulting. You don't know shit. It's gonna go to the moon, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
Richard, once you mentioned something, I think one of the podcasts maybe, that you don't like the term freedom of speech. I don't know if I'm correct. You don't like to use it. And one of the platforms, I don't remember when.
Should put that on TikTok.
Exactly.
but is that true? Like, is there a reason why you said that? Or?
Yeah, I'll explain it. But in context of what we were just talking about, so I think when you get hate, I think it is good not to sort of get triggered by it and not to be emotional about it, be able to have some emotional intelligence around it, but then also to look inward and just to question, are you doing something fundamentally wrong? Like, are you, are you being ethical, or do you have a fundamental problem with your business, right? And I think you always need to look at that. And for example, there are tabloids in the UK who were phone hacking the phones of celebrities and dead people, right? Like
dead people.
Yeah, there was a dead. Yeah. The News of the World was shut down because they a big backlash because a young girl, a 6-year-old or a 10-year-old, they went into the messages of her phone, right? Like,
wow.
So this was malpractice. Like, it was entrenched. It was right in the core of the company, right? So, if you're getting criticism and there's actually something in the core that's wrong, then fix it, And I think from our point of view, if we get some hate online, if people are saying, I can't see another post about Dubai Bling, unfollow, I'm kind of like, all right? Like, the same people who watch Dubai Bling are the people who the Lovin brand is built for.
Yeah.
Right? If you want, as I said, it's loving your life. I always used to joke it was the people who watch Friends, right? Like, we're all of us are both sides of this, but a media brand can't really afford to be to have many personalities. It needs to be clear what the personality is. So Smashi needs to be clear. It's for the ambitious people, right? And all the quotes and things like that are motivational things. And
I love Smashi.
Yeah, we're picking out those type of stuff from it, right? And so with Lovin, if people are getting triggered about things, I'm kind of like, well, you're the people who get triggered by stuff. You're the people who, but we obviously, I would pass some of the blame of this stuff back to the platforms. What's that Section 23 thing in the US? But it is their fault that there's so much toxicity online, and they've enabled tools over time. Like, we put a post up a few months ago about a Jewish wedding in Abu Dhabi, and people said, "Why did you turn the comments off?" And I'm glad we turned the comments off, because it would have upset the community. There would have been so many insults, right? And, FT turns the comments off on some things. So why can't you just control some situations that doesn't spill over into hate and upset people's lives, right? Now, you can question posting lots of different things. I'll answer the question. So, the freedom of speech in the context of press, it stems from how the US and how Western media is governed, right? So the First Amendment in the Constitution in the US says is basically related to freedom of speech, right? And then the press take that as their license to print anything,
exactly.
Right or wrong. And they say, we can print what we want, and it ruins lives sometimes, right? And in this region, we thankfully don't have the US Constitution, right? And the Constitution is very closely, like you see the Saudi flag, it's very closely to the Quran, it's very closely to Islam, right? It's not as defined as the American Constitution. So you have to understand freedom of speech in context with the Constitution and the culture that you're living in. So that's what I mean, that I don't believe in it. I don't think it's right. And if you think of, we're the first foreign-owned media company in Saudi Arabia since 5 years ago. How is that possible? In a region where not that long ago, for 300-400 years was under the Ottoman Empire, right? So parts of this region. And the Ottoman Empire banned the printing press, right? So the equivalent of banning the printing press today would be banning the internet, would be not allowing a media company in the region. Because you can't print books, you can't publish social media or websites. So that's what I mean. And we can. So the printing press isn't banned. So, and Dubai has wonderful media forums. It's got a strategic agenda to be the media capital of the region. It provides jobs, it provides discourse, but you have to understand it with the context of what the Americans say isn't always right.
Oh,
and
1000%.
And speaking with a lawyer as well, right? you know, when people say you need to hold people to account, journalists need to hold people to account, I think that's bullshit. I do, because why? Who gives you the right to hold someone to account? That's for the law. That's for different people, different thing. What you can do is you can shed light on information that doesn't exist within the culture, within the media guidelines. You know, so you can do that as a journalist. You know, my sister's a journalist and she works for Lovin Dubai. She didn't go to journalism school to lock people up in jail or to shame their families or whatever. That's not her purpose. That's not what young journalists, young creators do. They like writing. They like being creative. You know,
I love something you mentioned here, and I love it in Dubai. Like, I think in Dubai and UAE in general, like, you have the freedom to express yourself however you want, but as long as you're not overstepping on someone's respect, you know, just like
not offending anyone.
You're not offending anyone. Like so you can really, like, for me, I can say anything, but like, I know there's these guidelines, like, and it's right of me to respect them. Like, it's not, I don't feel like it's imposed upon me. I feel it's only ethical that I don't cross these lines. So that's the one of the beautiful things, you know, here compared to the US, as you mentioned, where like people talk about this, talk about that without any certain limits.
Yeah. Well, look, in Dubai, we don't do reviews. Like, Time Out did reviews since the 70s. Like, if restaurants want promotion, then we have a branded content sponsored model, but we don't do reviews for that reason. Like, why would I or anyone harm someone's chance of making a living? Why would someone say you've put your life's passion into opening a restaurant, and one comment or one thing can shut that down and ruin that person's chance of someone showing up for a coffee? Who am I? How dare I? Like, what gives me the right?
After Elon Musk now acquired Twitter, how do you think that will impact that platform? Or are you not too involved in it?
It'll become profitable and it'll list again because he's a shark.
Yeah.
He's a shark.
Yeah. We all love Elon here.
But I think he's doing it for the wrong reasons. I think he's got an ego, and I don't think he should be doing it.
He has a huge ego.
You know, why run a company that's in the tens of billions when you have two companies in hundreds of billions market cap? So what are you doing? What are you wasting your time on? You know, I think it's an ego trip.
Yeah.
So, guys, I have a question that I want to ask both of you. We'll start with Rami. I'm just like intrigued about like, what are the challenges that you faced in your upcoming, like ever since you were employed to the stage that you are at now? What has been the biggest challenge in your eyes that has been like challenging, and like, and if you can tell us also how you like overcame it.
Like, but really the worst one, like one of the worst experiences, something that like you thought you might not recover from.
Yeah.
Might not recover.
Like, it could be on a personal level, or it could be on a professional level,
of course,
while building your entrepreneurship journey.
So the one of the biggest challenges, I think, is defining yourself, in the sense that understanding what are you trying to build, and it's an everlasting discovery, but you kind of try to pinpoint it more and more. So when I say I'm a startup lawyer, when I first started, I said, is it the right choice or not? I'm trying to help startups, but the vision that I had at the time was not in a way was not real, was just an idea. And who said how startups were going to evolve? Like, that was 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. Who said how the region is going to evolve, how tech startups are going to evolve, how entrepreneurship is going to evolve? No one. Like, that is one of the biggest challenges, to really try to look to the future and really believe in the vision that you have, with no cues.
Yeah.
So you're driving a ship where like literally you
so
have no cues.
Uncertainty is a challenge,
Yeah.
and you faced it like while you were building, let's say, Akka Labs, or
like
you had an experience that where you figured that out, and you thought, okay, identifying ourselves was one of the toughest things.
It's always a challenge. Like, it has been a challenge from day one. Like, we started Lexium as a marketplace for lawyers. Imagine, like, Lexium originally as an
Marketplace
idea
for lawyers.
was a marketplace for lawyers, and we pitched 500 startups, which is one of the biggest investors in startups worldwide, as a marketplace for lawyers. And we just like, we were so excited and passionate about it, saying, hey, we're going to build the next big thing, connecting these lawyers to people, and you're going to be able to have a service that's super fast, that's super efficient. And now it's pivoted to something totally different.
Exactly. Is it safe to say that it was more of a mental challenge because you couldn't like identify the light in the tunnel?
Inherently, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a huge. You have to. I think in entrepreneurship, you get to really push all your mental, if you want to call them mental muscles, each and every day to discover things and to make sense of the changes that are happening. And for example, we were talking about like Zuckerberg and Facebook, the change that they did, changing like Facebook to Meta, and then putting all this investment, that requires, like, from the outside we see it as, okay, we can criticize and we can just give our opinion, but from the inside, can you imagine like steering that huge ship from one direction to another, changing the name, changing like everything into something that you believe is going to be the future? It's super hard. And so that's one of the biggest challenges, honestly.
What about you, Richard? What has been the biggest challenge?
There's been moments where the goings got tough, you know, like at the very start, there was, you know, how do we turn this into a business? Months like struggling, looking at finances and things like that. There's been legal stuff over the years that has been stressful, and things like that, like moments like that are tough. You know, but everything's a challenge. But you know, now it's you know, trying to do the next stage, try to build for the future and try to grow the business without making mistakes that people generally make, right? Like, we're lucky what we have at the moment. Do we play it safe? Do we go bigger? Now, you know, there's a responsibility, right? Like, there 70 employees, there's families in our business, right? There's parents, there's things like that. So there's that. And then, you know, that's in the business. Personally, I do triathlon, and I trained, I used to do a lot of half Ironmans and marathons. And then I trained for a full Ironman a couple of years ago. And I trained 11 months, 16, 20 hours a week, and got to the race day in my native Ireland, where it's temperamental weather-wise. And there was a storm and they cancelled the swim. And I was on the bike, and I had I basically had hypothermia or whatever. My hands were shaking and bouncing. And I got a flat tire, and so I didn't finish the race. And that was like, you know, it should be, you know, a full Ironman is you know, it's a long race, right? Like, it's a long event. It's 3.9K swim, 180K bike, and 42K marathon. And and then the pandemic happened, and I'd signed up for one the next year. So this is basically 2 years of training. And then it was supposed to be in Astana in Kazakhstan, closer to here, and they canceled it like 2 weeks before. And, you know, it was keeping me going during the pandemic. Like, on Lovin Dubai, we luckily had media mission permits, so we were publishing every day anyway. Like, our business was cut to pieces in March 2020. It was, you know, we had big losses for those summer months, but we turned around. But you know, training for that Ironman sort of helped me have that discipline and consistency. And they gave us an option: do you want to do it in Estonia? Some hero, some local race coordinator pushed through. Like, it was the only Ironman to happen around the world. He just got the contacts with the government, and you know. But honestly, I had 3 or 4 different flights cancelled. It was hilarious. Like, there was just very little travel. But I got in, and the race happened, and I did it like in 11 hours, 14 minutes, and 2 years basically to do that. You know, it's the same with business as well. Like, you have to have that sort of tenacity to sort of keep going.
Exactly.
You touch up on a very good point. You know, it's consistency. You prepare well, and I think it's you know, your mindset to keep on going no matter what. And on that point, you mentioned there was some financial, you know, situations you faced, and I know how funding is very difficult for startups. So like, if someone would wanted to start something out, like, how would they get funding? What are the requirements to start asking for funding? From where would they get it? Like, how did you manage to get some funding, for Augustus Media, Lovin Dubai? And then Rami, maybe you can elaborate on how you did it for Aka Labs and Lexion.
Yeah, I think as Rami was saying as well, like there's a lot more options available for people now in many ways in startup space. Things are cheaper. There's a lot of funds out there in the region, particularly. It's not that hard to get money now. It is hard enough and it is stressful. But I think what's stressful is if you raise money and your product doesn't work and it's failing. I think that's a stressful part. The sort of getting some cash isn't that hard, although it could be better. It could be easier. There could be more of it and heading into recession. With us, we didn't really have something that we thought we would raise funds for. So myself and my brother put in a bit of money, about $40,000 or so. And then that sort of went quite quickly. And then I put a LinkedIn post up sort of while I was at the other startup, and two sort of friends put in money. One put 40 in, and another put 80 in, and that was it. It was $160,000 in 2016, and it was gone by May 2016. So it was gone so quickly that Dubai is not cheap. Like, I hired an editor on 28,000 dirhams a month.
Wow.
Yeah. And a bit of a mistake, but not really. Got us a bit of credibility, and but we were paying license fees for the franchise. We were paying startup. With publishing as well, it's not like services. You can't get a client really on day one. You need to go 12 to 18 months to build an audience. Yeah, like in the other cities that we're in now, we know that we won't make revenue for that period of time. And but that's the thing. And then you kind of go, well, how do I value my business? And that's hard. And what capital do I take? I do think that people should look at all options. Like, debt has been good to us. We keep our debt to equity ratio really low, within a healthy environment, but we're always looking at debt. Cash flow can be tricky. Some clients don't pay for 120 days or whatever. So you just have to manage all these things. But because some companies make mistakes with how much equity they give away and they sell the dream. Like when we were launching Smashi, Cheddar raised $50 million. And I was putting together a deck, will I raise money for Smashi? And if I'd done it, if I'd raised sort of $2 or $5 million in 2018, 2019, and said, we're going to have 10,000 subscribers because OTT is going to take off in the region by 2022. And if I don't, then what? So we incubated it. We did it ourselves. And we don't have those amount of subscribers. But equally, the streaming space is so nascent. Like they barely have fiber network in Egypt, so there's so many things. Like you talked about Lebanon at the start. Like Lebanon was a key player in the media industry and still is in Dubai and on podcasts. But it really was the history of media. When I came to the region first, and I would tell my uncle or people in Ireland, that I was going in and out to Beirut, they would always tell me that they knew Beirut from the wireless, from the radio, because it was one of the dials, like in 1940s Ireland. That was their exposure, and that was the radio, right? Like, in the media industry, obviously, is really big in Egypt as well. But so it's a great part of the world, right? But you can't just force it. People say, sorry, I'm going on, but people say, hey, accelerate it. Take some money, give up like 30, 40% and go faster. But I'm kind of like, well, we can't. We have to wait for other parts of the ecosystem to grow. In Saudi, Lovin Dubai came 15 years after Time Out Dubai. So 15 years after ITP and that, right? And in Saudi, we're 4 years ahead, right? So that sounds good, but it's bad because there's no market there. There was no market for the type of content and work that we were doing. Right, there is in Doha. We just started in Doha and people were 10 years ahead of us. We just started in Cairo. People are 10 years ahead of us. I think that's great because digital media needs that starting spot, So we can't force things. We can't force the giga projects in Saudi to be built so the restaurant opens, so they have a marketing budget, so they are going to work on Lovin neon.
Yeah.
We have to wait.
Definitely.
And
Like,
all the startup money in the world won't, we have to sort of wait. So
you have to wait. What
Well,
do you know
yeah.
what do you think about funding, and how would you get it, and how would you value your startup to know how much funds you need to request with equity and all of that?
Definitely look at all the options. Like Richard was saying, like just start with friends and family. You might be surprised at the amount of people that are available in your network that you are not really focused on. So this is the first step into, I believe, raising capital. And it's very important. And so a lot of people try to put their own money into the business. And it's very interesting because you believe in your business and you want to put that money. But I think that the investor gives you a sense of control. So they're kind of looking at your operations and seeing in a way what you're doing, and gives you that feeling of responsibility, saying, hey, I owe that money, or that person trusted me with that money. And now I'm just like, kudos to you, Richard, honestly, for the ethical sentence that you just said. He could have said very easily, like, yeah, we want to see numbers at this level in 2022 or 2020 or 2021. And if it doesn't happen, well, guess what? It didn't happen. We could blame it on COVID. We could blame it on everything, right? But that goes back to the level of ethics that the person has, and the level of like honesty and straightforwardness, etc. So if you want to raise capital, the first step, look at your network. The second step, there are so many programs. Search outside the box. Lexium raised from 500 startups. Just a little backstory. So we started off in Lebanon. We were incubated in Beirut. And for me, my first target was to raise from the US, because I believed that legal can be disrupted most out of the US, and our market is ultimately the region and on the long run, the US. So I focused on the two major players in startups, which are YC and 500 startups. And so I started going on LinkedIn and I searched for partners that are in 500 startups that were from Arab descent. And so I found one of the partners who was Egyptian, living in California, Sharif Al-Badawi. And I messaged the guy and told him, listen, I'm not looking for investment. I'm looking for you to actually follow our progress. I'm an ex-lawyer, who quit the corporate big law, and I'm looking to disrupt legal. And what I'm going to do is just get your email, send you a weekly report of what we're doing. And 6 months from now, you get to decide if you want to invest or not. Mm-hmm. He loved the idea.
Nice.
Because
he's running the district fund now.
Yeah, exactly. So
you thought outside of the box.
Yeah. So for me, I did not go to the investor and say, hey, give me money. I said, I'm going to prove to you that I could actually do it. And 6 months from now, when I'm literally like aching for the dollar to continue, then I'm going to ask you. And if I did a good job, then obviously he's going to invest. And that's what he did. February, 6 months after that, it was February, I reached out and I had another term sheet from another investor. I said, hey, this is a term sheet from another investor. Can you give me better? Mm-hmm. And so the deal happened in less than a month, literally. And that was exceptional, because he believed in the team, he believed in us, he believed in whatever we were building. And next thing, we were in San Francisco, we were with 500 startups, we got the investment, we came back to the region. So it was always about thinking outside the box, but also proving to people that you can do things. And it's not about like building the product from scratch. It's about showing what you can build. Like to build the MVP, build the experience, show people, build a video. An example, Dropbox. Dropbox did not raise when they built the product. They raised before building the product.
The video, yeah.
Exactly.
Very famous
they did the video and they did the sign up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They said, if you want to get access to that, just sign up. They got 1 million emails. And then when they got the 1 million emails, they went to the investor and said, hey, we got 1 million potential users. You want to invest or you don't want to invest? And the investor was like, damn it, I'm definitely gonna invest,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And now with Killers, with the NFT, we went to the public and we did a free mint. It sold out in 3 minutes. We already generated 300 Ethereums in traded volume on OpenSea and other platforms. We took 10% of that. So we raised our initial capital from royalties on the exchange of our product, because we showcase to people that our product is high level, our art is dope, our community is dope, our brand is dope. 300 Ethereums. We raised 30 Ethereums in capital. That's in less than a month. Right, and we raised it not directly from the people's pocket, but indirectly from trades that are happening, right? Because it was interesting for people to trade it. And now, as a community, we took a decision to build one of the biggest databases for accelerators, incubators, and investors, and we're going to share it with the public. And that's what we've been doing. So now, I think post this episode, it's gonna be live. So anyone can have access to this database that we are building for the community of startups and entrepreneurs, saying, hey, these contacts are free for you to actually go research. And so if you're serious about raising capital, go and screen through all this list and find your investor, because they're out there. It's just that you're not doing enough effort to actually find them at some point, right? So that's
I think the investor approach is a very interesting approach, because this proves that when there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
If you want to achieve something and you put it in your mind, you will achieve it. Which actually brings me to my next question. I'm going to start with you, Rami, again. Regardless if you were an employee or like an entrepreneur, like now, I'm just more interested in knowing, like, what are the key success factors that made you to transformed you to the person you are today, and what is the mindset that you empower so you can wake up every day with the same passion, same motivation to go to work and manage between all the different businesses that you're handling?
First of all, I'm far from being successful. That's number one. I don't consider myself successful at this point in time. I don't consider that I've achieved what I wanted to achieve. I have a vision to disrupt legal for startups, and that's what I'm doing. I'm far from actually getting to it. I'm far from getting to the numbers of entrepreneurs launching their business. My main KPI is to see entrepreneurs launch their business. That's how I quantify my vision. So I want to disrupt legal for startups, one entrepreneur at a time. What keeps me going is that drive, is that energy that I see with every founder, every entrepreneur that is building their startup.
But where does it stem from? Where does it stem from?
Where does it come from? The creative part that I have within me. I like to see projects being created. There's a startup right now, and Walid is very familiar with that. It started 5 months ago, literally with an idea, with a dinner in New York. We went for a dinner. It was very random. It was just a basic, like, just very raw idea. Today, it's huge, and it's gonna launch soon. It's gonna be really huge, and so that energy that I built with that founder, and the other founder and the other founder, and we became close friends. We work together. We have calls. We laugh. We joke. That energy drives me every day to wake up and say, like, these guys are changing something. I want to push with whatever I've got to help them. Right? And same thing for Lexium. My team is disrupting legal, and I wanna keep pushing them and bring new people on board to even disrupt further whatever is being done. I get frustrated from huge bills that lawyers give to entrepreneurs, from these like $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in bills for things that I know as a lawyer can be done for much less. Right? That was where my frustration started. At Killers, same thing. Create that community of entrepreneurs who are really thinking, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be controversial on that level, but who are not thinking of being hustlers and millionaires. Because that's not the point. The point is not for you to just think of, like, how can I put that huge chain on my neck and have that Lamborghini? That's not the point. That's not entrepreneurship. That's part of it maybe at some point, but that's not it. And so I wanted to build that community of people who really believe in disrupting, in solving problems and in finding these needs, and to like challenge themselves mentally to build the next big thing. And so this is where Akillers was born. And that's what keeps me going each and every day.
Amazing.
What about you, Richard? Like key success factors, you would say 2 or 3?
Yeah, I think, we have values in our company: tenacity, ingenuity, velocity. So tenacity is about, the harder you work today, the more you'll be rewarded tomorrow. Ingenuity, we believe there's a bit of genius in everyone. So it helps with diversity, it helps with empowering people. And velocity is all about momentum and having energy to get projects going, not sitting on ideas, not, in any capacity. So those sort of things govern, and what they come from? Looking at the industry that I'd worked in for 10 years and saying, well, what is the makeup of a business that will succeed in this area? And if you look at sports, I think sports is always a good analogy, but if you look at, say, endurance sport or football or basketball or cricket, and if you have a career in that space and you work under different coaches, then what would you learn from the back of that? Consistency, discipline, training, that what's the Kobe Bryant Mamba mentality, exactly. That sort of stuff. And that's inspiring. Like Kobe says, I used to say he would go to Goat Mountain, whenever he's feeling down, he would mentally go up to a mountain where all the goats are. So you can visualize goats at the top of a mountain, but he's talking about the greatest of all time. And he would talk to those people. He would have conversations in his head to those people. And I do the same thing in a weird way. Like I have photos of people, quotes on my wall in the office. And, I would say, well, what would they do? Right. So, that type of stuff, but it's for the business, it's not getting too carried away. Like, another analogy would be the restaurant industry, right? Like at the end of the day, do you have customers? Are you providing a service? Well, how much of that can you deliver in a month? And then you can keep the lights on and the bills paying. You can buy the good ingredients for the next month. So fundamentally, we'll always be that. And if we're grounded in that, then we don't sort of get carried away. We don't sort of want to skip things. I don't like when people say, oh, I'm tired. I worked in events industry for 15 years. I'm tired. Have a nap and go start again. Like I don't like this because you know what? It leads to looking for shortcuts. It leads to saying, I'm tired and therefore I'm going to try and make things easier with some piece of code that just skips everything. Mm-hmm. But no, you still need to work hard, right? Even if you invent that code, right? Like the Collisons with Stripe, like they work really hard. The Irish people work hard, but they work really hard and they don't get carried away, right? Like, and I think sometimes if you say in the service industry, like if you worked in a bar for 10, 15 years and you said, Hollis, I'm going to make an app that helps people book reservations or whatever, right? That's cool. Or you could say, I'm so good at this now, I'm going to open up my own restaurant and I'm going to be a manager. Both need hard work. The latter, the former one, the startup isn't the easier option.
Exactly. Still needs lots of hard work.
Yeah.
We just have, I think, 2 or 3 more questions. Then there's a small trivia. The next question is about something we all have here in common: is social media platforms. So you're a micro influencer. You have one of the biggest platforms in Dubai. So maybe I'll start with Richard. What's one of the trends that you're seeing in social media? You mentioned Snapchat also, if you could talk about Snapchat, because I think it's very important, especially in KSA Snapchat. So are you seeing any trends on the different social media platforms? What's the situation with Snapchat? How do you grow and how do you engage with your audience the best way possible?
There's always trends in social media, but at the moment there's only one. And it's dominant, vertical video, whatever way you look at it. Vertical video. It's, 6 months ago, we used to have to make TikToks. Now we don't. They're all going in. I saw an article in the FT the other day, right? Like, which shows the percentage of the billions that these companies are going to make from short form videos in ads next year. And it's just starting. Like I did it in the predictions at the start of this year, but really it's just starting next year. We're very early. Like of the 70, 80 billion that Meta make from ads, 900 million is on Reels and TikTok, and it's going to be 2.6 billion next year. They think TikTok's at 4 billion will go to 8. And you watch on your phone in the last few months, the next few months, how YouTube is becoming TikTok.
YouTube Shorts.
Yeah, but YouTube. But what? Like, look, the Shorts used to be 3-4 down. Now, and I've seen screenshots from Asia. Now it's just under the top video.
Better visibility now.
Yeah, it's just coming. It's you know, and they're moving in that space because they need to do attention. And then how do you devise your platform? You know, 4 years ago, we launched the Lovin Dubai show, which has got good chemistry. It's on podcasts. It's a daily show. It's got influencers. The reason we did it is because the algorithm was giving us live juice at the time. And now the algorithm, you know, if you want to get subscribers on YouTube, it used to be hard. It's not now. It's not. If you sit down and focus in the next 3, 6, 9 months, you can get so much subscribers. Look at every vertical video, YouTube short. Look how prominent that subscribe button is. It's bright, it's punchy, it's red, you know, and I've seen pages who, you know, struggled with subscribers on YouTube for years. Suddenly they get more subscribers in 6 months than they get in 6 years. Right? So vertical video, and that Snap as well as vertical video. What we
Spotlight.
Yeah, Spotlight. Spotlight is the creator economy, right? Like, so, you know, we look at sort of the industry as the creator economy is a lot to do with creators and revenue share from platforms. And then the token economy is obviously crypto, but the token economy is more like the direct to consumer piece, the subscription piece. There's overlap. But yeah, with Snapchat, you know, Snapchat, we have shows in Saudi. We have one show called Meme and Kessler Social Media, if I can pronounce it right, who's crushing social media. And it's the biggest show in Saudi. 2 4-minute episodes a week. It had 6 billion top snap views last year.
What's it called?
Who's crushing social media? So Meme and Kessler Social Media.
Mina بكسر.
Social media.
Yeah.
You said it perfectly right.
But no, it was a really good show. But it's one of 7 shows we have now. And it's vertical video. And they talk about sort of trending influencer stuff. And they do script writing around it. But we said, you know, we were a non-scripted company because you need different types of script writers to do different stuff. So you asked earlier, Mahar, how we do fast news. Well, we want to see what are people WhatsApping each other about, right? Like, and if we go into the office in the morning, our journalists, and they look across the office and look at all the different nationalities in Dubai, and they go, what were these people WhatsApping each other last night? And then how do we, going back to the freedom of speech thing, because I kind of wanted to finish that with something positive, but like, you know, like basically, you know, you can do it. Like, you know, you can do journalism, right? So we basically publish everything, right? We're not afraid of publishing stuff, provided we don't insult or provided we don't. But the thing is to do media, and it makes it even harder. How do you package it up? You know, and how do you do it in a way on social media? Like we talked about insults before. Like people say, you know, this is going to be bad for your brand. You're going to get negative comments. Well, we're not really a brand. I mean, we are a brand, but we don't mind the negative comments because the discourse is part of the media, right? Like we're not selling anything to you. So some influencers, when they post stuff and they get cancelled, they delete the posts. We don't do that. Journalism shouldn't do that. Like people bring us up and say, take it down, and it goes all down those routes. But like, you know, so anyway, the trends, the vertical video, Snapchat it's not just big in Saudi. It hasn't really been killed by TikTok, but obviously TikTok's big. But I think there's room for all of these. Like Be Real's coming out now, IRL in real life. Like, but Be Real, is it a platform? Is it a feature? TikTok.
I feel like it's just a hype. I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's gonna continue. Let's see. I want to
never underestimate what the
exactly.
I would argue that.
Rami, do you have video?
I mean, I'm not an expert in social media per se. From what I know from my platform and the way it grew, it's all about care. It's all about answering people, having conversations, getting to know who is actually consuming your content. and for me that's about it. I mean, that's the trend is going to be more interaction with the people that are part of this. I don't like to call this a follower base. I like to call it a community, because I believe in that aspect. I believe if you are interactive, if you are engaging with the people that are basically consuming your content, you get more results, more efficient choices of content that you're throwing out there. And then you could go for people who are technical, like Richard, for example, or like understand more about like what is it vertical videos? Is it maybe text for Medium? I'm doing a lot of Medium articles. I enjoy it. I don't care if it's gonna grow or not. So I think it's about care. The one word I would say is care.
I completely agree. It's mostly about building emotional connection with your community. Before we end this segment and we move to the last segment of today's episode, I have a question for both of you guys. So I'm going to ask it now. What would be like an advice you would give someone who's just graduated university?
Get into crypto.
So that's a mutual answer.
That's definitely a mutual answer.
Okay, that's a good one. And for you guys, what would be your future plans? You have like anything that you are thinking of doing, like a vision, a mission? Like, what's in your future plans? What's in the future plans of Lovin Dubai? You mentioned a couple of things. What's in the future plans of Rami?
Rami or Lexium and Killers, or because Rami is gonna keep building Lexium and Killers, and that's my lifetime plan.
That's your lifetime.
Yeah, and if we did a podcast 1 year from now, what would be
gonna be Lexium and Killers?
Lexium and Killers.
Yeah, I still have one startup in mind that I want to do. That's not now, but it's coming. That's related to relationships, because I believe in disrupting relationships. I don't believe in the way relationships are built right now. Amazing. So I believe that. So I chose 5 points in my life that I want to try to change or disrupt or impact: legal, startups, relationships, and then potentially at some point later on politics. Because I'm passionate about politics, and my personal family, like trying to enhance that circle of mine and having people who I really love and care about and would give my life for around me, and vice versa.
So that,
make sure to call us.
Yeah. Definitely, we'll want to hear all about it. Richard, any like that future plans, visions for your life, for your companies, etc.?
Yeah, I'd like to just keep growing and building Augustus Media. You know, whatever comes under that. Like, I believe in making kind of shorter term business plans, like 1 to 3 years. It's nice to have a big goal in the future. We're trying to figure out now how to grow. Like, we went from 20 people in the pandemic to 70 now, right? And we're looking at, like, do you need a big goal? What's the sort of incentive alignment? Should we aim to go public at some point? Do we keep growing these brands right now and then do M&A in the future? So I need to grow these brands, but on the side I have my own investment fund. I called it Fitzy Funds, kind of a fun thing. But basically I invest in some startups, but they're actually as if I'm investing Augustus Media. The board, whenever I send them ideas, they're kind of like, that's more of a you thing.
No.
So then I was like, okay, well, like, I think it's the same thing. I think it's Augustus Media. And I think, we need to build Lovin and Smashi. With Lovin, I'd love to do NFT projects in the future. Have this one idea where we have a Lovin Fest, although we don't really do events, but have a Lovin Fest in each city, like Riyadh, Beirut, Cairo, Dubai. And you get one NFT ticket and did you go to the one in Dubai and Riyadh, etc. And you do it around a national day kind of time. And it's a celebration of the city. So we'd like to do something like that, like they're just projects, I think keep building. I'm inspired by some of the companies I invest in, like Podio podcast app in Lebanon.
Stefano.
We all know Stefano.
Yeah, I hope you're hosting it. Put them on the spot. And then Nifty Souk as well, an NFT project. So a lot of startups in the region. Around media, there's one in Saudi, a female platform, Balkis for her, and there's plant-based news vegan type news platform out of the UK. So those type of things in the future, you know, maybe Augustus Media would be more of a holding company for these modern media brands. And then maybe we go public, like, but it's a step by step.
It's a step by step.
Yeah.
Now we'd like to move to the trivia section. So it's just general questions, just for fun, you know, to finish off the episode. I'll let Maher go with the first three.
Yeah, we can start with the first three. But how do you want to be?
So
how do you want the setup to be?
I want them to try to answer.
Answer first come first serve, or they do something like that, so we give them the permission to
I
answer.
think first come first serve. They're gonna look at each other, or whoever says it first.
Yeah,
I just
okay.
wanna see how it goes.
So we'll start with the first question. Are you ready, guys? What is the painting La Gioconda more usually known as?
La Joconde. You guys know La
Joconde
Joconde?
Yeah.
in French. No? No idea?
Mona Lisa.
Yes.
Yeah. yeah.
Okay, that's the
Okay.
first one.
Okay. Second question. What's the most expensive home?
No, wait, it's this one.
This one.
Not the expensive home thing.
The statue.
It's next, I think.
The Statue of Liberty was given to the US by which country?
Egypt, no?
No.
No.
Oh, damn.
How is it?
France?
Yes.
Yes.
Rami and Richard.
Okay.
Okay, do this.
Oh yeah, Liberté and all that.
Yeah.
Third question.
Napoleon. Yeah.
How many children does Oprah Winfrey have?
She doesn't have her own children, but she adopts.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
We can
that's
give it to
correct. It's
Richard.
zero.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 2-1.
Walid, if you want.
طب
take over.
I'll take over. Which chess piece can only move diagonally?
Bishop.
Yeah.
Yes. First 2-2.
2-2.
Okay. In which film did father and son actors Will and Jaden Smith first appear together?
Pursuit of Happiness.
Pursuit of Happiness.
Yes.
He's taking the lead. What a comeback.
Time. It's 3-2. Let's see if we'll need a tiebreaker. What is the most common letter in the English alphabet?
Yeah.
Common letter.
Common letter. What
The most common letter in the English
Used in
alphabet.
all the in words.
Yeah, in words. The most common letter used in words.
A, I, E.
Say
C.
one.
Say one.
Okay.
C.
A.
No.
No.
We'll give you 3 options. Okay. I will give you 4 options. A, E, I,
E.
and C.
E.
Okay. E.
Yeah.
E.
Well done.
So now it's
I think.
3-3. We'll give the last question. Who said to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee?
Muhammad Ali.
Oh.
well played. But guys, I would like to thank you so much. It was an amazing episode.
Amazing
Lots
episode.
of insights. Rami,
Thank you so much.
Richard, thank you so much for being here. We have to all together say our famous sentence.
Yeah, but before, make sure you guys like and subscribe.
We didn't
That's
say it in the beginning.
that's the most important thing. 75% of the people watching us are not subscribed. It's just a button. Just one button.
Yeah, Richard said it's flashy, it's
Flashy, punchy, red, bright. So yeah, let's go.
What we usually say is always have a higher take. I'm gonna remove that. So I'm gonna say always have, and all of you will say higher take. If we can all look at the camera here, and let's do it. So guys, always have
Higher
take. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.